5 levitations caught on tape. The Georgia sleep levitation. So the story goes that a woman named Diane Crosby was staying with a female friend and began to notice that each morning when she awoke, she would be covered in strange bruises. In order to try to determine what was happening, she set up a camera to record herself sleeping. When she viewed the recording the next day, this is what she saw. Strange nocturnal levitation, but trying to reproduce the massive metal frame with a complicated system of levers, pulleys, and wires. And then, even after all that, that's the finished video with CGI software just to try to replicate the original video. In the late 1970s, a German film crew were producing a documentary on a remote African tribe. Legend had it that the shaman of the tribe could perform amazing magical feats, including levitation. The German documentary crew set up and began filming as the shaman performed his ritual. To their amazement, he was seemingly able to float over 2 to 3 feet in the air for several minutes. He then collapsed to the ground from exhaustion. Despite there being 2 cameras filming the shaman from different angles, the documentary filmmakers found no evidence of wires or harnesses that could be used to lift the shaman so high in the air. Name for English magician Stephen Frame. Dynamo is best known for his Tellman staple of the magician's bag of tricks. Dynamo has performed multiple unexplained illusions, including levitating in front of the world-famous statue of Jesus in Rio de Janeiro, and levitating against the side of a moving bus for a promotional series for Pepsi Max. In perhaps the most amazing levitation illusion ever performed, Dynamo levitated from the top of the building The Shard in London, which is the tallest building in the UK. At first, critics called the trick a colossal fail, after the magician tweeted out a picture of the illusion a few days before it was scheduled to air. In the picture, close observers could clearly spot wires holding the magician in place, or so they thought. Own picture in Photoshop. In a dramatic twist on his own trick, he had actually managed to fool people into believing that he had done the trick with wires. A feat that likely would have been impossible considering that Dynamo actually seems to not only levitate to the top of the Shard building, but continues to rise high above the structure where wires couldn't reach. To this day, no one knows exactly how Dynamo performed his amazing levitation trick. But one thing is certain, it wasn't with the aid of his Photoshop of the most famous hauntings in history. The case has been the subject of several books and documentaries. The Enfield haunting gained national attention when it was investigated by famous paranormal researchers Ed and Lorraine Warren. This investigation later became the plot for the popular horror film The Conjuring 2. Now, one of the most famous photos from the Enfield haunting is that of 11-year-old Janet Hodgson supposedly levitating above her bed. Many have dismissed the photo as simply a picture of the girl jumping from her bed and caught midair on film. However, multiple witnesses have claimed that Janet's levitations were a common occurrence, and that they themselves had been present and saw the levitations with their own eyes. What makes this case especially odd are the other supernatural phenomena that were recorded in the house. Parapsychologist Maurice Grosse conducted experiments where a lamp was repeatedly ripped from its wall socket and thrown across the room by some mysterious force. At one point, one of Janet Hodgson's shoes was seemingly thrown at him as he tried to leave. 2 English policemen reported witnessing a chair levitate 4 inches off the ground and move down the hallway right in front of their eyes.
It came off the floor, or maybe a half inch, I should say, and I saw it slide off to the right, about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest. I checked to see whether or not it could possibly have slid along the floor. I placed a marble on the floor to see whether or not the marble would go in the same direction as the chair did, and it didn't. It didn't roll at all. I checked for wires under the cushion of the chair, and I could find no explanation at all.
And perhaps strangest of all, Janet Hodgson would often speak in the voice of a spirit she called Bill. Now keep in mind that the audio that you're about to hear is the recording of an 11-year-old girl speaking on tape.
I want you to tell me whether you remember what happened to you when you died. Just before you died and just after you died.
days before I died, I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
Traveled to exotic locations around the world to try to discover if any, quote, real magic, end quote, existed. White had heard stories that there was a Buddhist monk deep in the Himalayan mountains who was rumored to be able to reach a meditative state in which he could actually make himself levitate. The monastery where the monk resided was located in a remote area, miles into the Himalayan mountains, only reachable by airplane, and then an additional 2-day hike deeper into the heart of mountain terrain. Eventually, Dan White, the monk began to chant quietly to himself. Then suddenly, as the cameras rolled, he rose from the ground below and floated over a foot in the air for almost a minute, before slowly descending. The host of the show, Dan White, a magician for over 20 years, could not explain how the monk had seemingly been able to make himself levitate right before their eyes.
Wow. There's no wires. I didn't see anything. This is crazy.